Alright, so I've got a little something I wrote to read. It's on the idea of the eternal recurrence or eternal return, whatever the fuck you want to call it. If you want a good overview of that, Nietzsche wrote about it in the Gay Science. What section was it? I have the note written down here. Section 341. Anyway, so, in a sense, the eternal recurrent, in a sense, the concept of the eternal recurrence could be a mental reality, not a literal reality, like the typical view of, everything happens over and over again in a cycle on a cosmic scale that happens repeatedly for, well, it just happens eternally. It just back and forth. Though there is some, though the works of Brian Cox and Sir Roger Penrose could suggest that there is something cyclical to the universe, but whether everything in the universe is cyclical like that or not, really unknowable. But I think it's interesting because in the last 7 minutes of brain activity upon death, it's thought that people could be, reliving their entire lives in that 7 minutes inside their heads. The brain secretes DMT. It's very possible that you could legitimately relive that entire life in those 7 minutes. But the thing is, what happens when you get to that 7 minutes inside of those 7 minutes? And obviously, that would imply that it isn't once that you see it, and it would just keep replaying until finally your physical and your actual body dies. But inside those 7 minutes, it would just keep going at an exorbitant innumerable times, and that it would just keep going, and you keep reliving it in those 7 minutes, inside of 7 minutes, inside of 7 minutes, inside of 7 minutes, inside of 7 minutes, until you finally die. It's kind of an interesting idea. I remember I used to talk with a friend about that a few years ago. But I didn't really tie it into anything because at that time I hadn't read the Gay Science. So, it's interesting. But, on that note, it's kind of, it could kind of tie in with Marilyn Manson and the Tryptich. And, there was a really good video by Forever Dirt, of course, released the other day for Mechanical Animals. And with the Tryptich as it is, each album is cyclical in its nature. It starts right where it ends. If you listen to track 99, it leads right into Irresponsible Hate Anthem. If you listen to Count to 6 and Die, it bleeds into God Eat God. The same thing goes with the final, with Great Big White World and track 15. That sort of thing. But, so, anyway. And then there's a line from The Fall of Adam in Hollywood that goes, when one world ends, something else begins. Just a whisper because we care, I guess. So on and so on. And if something comes from the death of its predecessor, the idea of alpha and omega, it's not really dualistic. It's kind of syncretic. And then if you, in The Vessel of God by Boyd Rice, which is right here, really good book, by the way. Also, I'm recording this and it's Boyd Rice's birthday, so that's funny. Anyway, so in The Vessel of God, Boyd writes, all of this brings to mind the tablet in Rene Le Chateau, in which Christ is identified as the Alpha and John the Baptist as the Omega. Observers have always commented that the Alpha and Omega were out of sequence chronologically, since the Baptist prepared the way for the Christ would not be the beginning. The Alpha, it makes... Wait, give me a second. Would not he be the beginning, the Alpha? It makes no apparent sense. Perhaps the meaning is simpler than expected. Perhaps what is being said is that the Alpha and Omega were one and the same, that the end brought forth a new beginning, and the end would be the flood, and the beginning being the post-Diluvian epoch. It makes more sense if you read the book, which I highly recommend. It's a very good book. I'm not saying that just because it's his birthday. I'm saying it because it's a good book. Then again, it comes back to the idea that Nietzsche had in the gay science of the eternal return. But in Antichrist Superstar, this Ouroboros can be summed up in the form of Anatole France's Revolt of the Angels, which is God conquered will become Satan, Satan conquering will become God. And I've messed around a lot with, I've been really, really into using, Chat GPT to fuck around with this. And so it kind of really ties it in well. And I know the Launchpad did a really good video on it, so I'm not going to really go into that because, it's already out there. I just did personal confirmation and stuff, not just with ChatGPT, but ChatGPT was kind of like my, looking over my work, It's interesting. It's interesting, but, just the whole idea of the eternal return and recurrence, and I've written about it before in other places. I have another writing on it. I don't think I'll read that right now because it's in a different notebook, and I know where it is. It's right over there on my bed, but right next to the tissue box right there, where all those books are. But I really don't know if that's... But I really don't feel like going over there to get that right now and digging through it to try and find it. So, I guess that's what I'm here to say right now.